This episode is brought to you by HASA. Liquid is clearly better. Liquid chlorine is the highest purity, works immediately, has no added cyanuric acid or calcium, and it will leave your pool safe, clean, and clear. And by the bottom feeder professional grade battery powered vacuum system. It sucks to clean pools, so cleaning pools sucks less. Get $100 off with code DVB100.
This episode is brought to you by Skimmer, the #1 pool service software in North America. With Skimmer, you can streamline your schedule, grow your revenue, and keep your customers coming back with 5-star service. Whether you're a one-person operation or an established team, Skimmer is your partner in success. Visit getskimmer.com/poolguy to try Skimmer for free for 30 days.
The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show.
Hi, welcome to the Pool Guy Podcast Show. In this episode, I'm going to talk to you about general liability insurance, and this works both ways for the pool pro as well as the homeowner. When you're hiring somebody, of course you want them to have insurance when they're working on your property. If you plan on doing commercial service accounts, they're going to require some kind of insurance as well. So I'm going to go over some common liability issues and some things to look for in a company that supplies liability insurance. Are you a pool service pro looking to take your business to the next level? Join the Pool Guy Coaching Program. Get expert advice, business tips, exclusive content, and get direct support from me. I'm a 35-year veteran in the industry. Whether you're starting out or scaling up, I've got the tools to help you succeed. Learn more at swimmingpoollearning.com. It's interesting, the landscape of insurance has changed a lot in California at least. It's hard to get insurance on your home because of all the recent fires. And so one thing that they have in place now is a state kind of run insurance company, and it's called the California Fair Plan. So if you have a house and you're looking for insurance, sometimes that's your default plan. But the one thing that this coverage does not have, it does not have liability. And so you have to extend that from your personal residence. If you have a rental property and you want to get insurance on it, you'd have to extend that and get liability or get a separate liability policy. And this basically will cover you if someone is on your property and slips and falls, or maybe your dog attacks the mailman and they sue you, then you have to pay out of pocket. Liability insurance is important when you have a car, and of course when you're driving around with an automobile and you get in an accident, your policy should have some liability. Most policies cover up to $500,000 in liability. And this is important to protect yourself. Also, if someone gets really injured in an accident, they're not going to sue you personally. So with your home and with your auto, in most cases, you're going to want to have liability to prevent yourself from being sued for damages. So why is it that when you have a business, you don't really think about it and don't really consider the fact that if something were to happen, you're liable for those costs? Now, a lot of people incorporate and they feel like if they're incorporated, they're protected from liability. And in some aspects of that, you have some protection from liability to the extent of the asset in the corporation. But in all intents and purposes, a big lawsuit could put you out of business regardless of how much you have to pay out, how much you're liable for. And your company, your pool service company, does have value to it. So just keep that in mind, that just by being incorporated and trying to separate your personal assets from your business entity, the business entity does have some value to it, and it's not going to protect you 100%. And there are some cases where you fail to keep everything separate. You're mixing your corporate with some personal funds. And regardless of that, you just don't want to be sued and have to be liable for any kind of payouts. And that's where general liability insurance comes in. That's why you should have it for your home and auto, because this is a layer of protection that you're paying for so that you're not paying money out of your pocket for it. So you should always have a general liability insurance with your business, whether it's a pool service business or something else. And it's something that's there to protect you as a homeowner. And as a homeowner that's hiring somebody, they would want to have someone who's insured as well. You never want somebody on your property like a roofer if they don't have insurance, because if one of their employees falls off the roof and gets critically injured or hurt, who are they going to get the money from? Well, there's no insurance company, so therefore the homeowner is next in line to pay for it. Same thing if you have a pool service and they leave the water running and it floods the property and there's $30,000 in damage. If that pool service company does not have general liability insurance, you can sue them for the damages, which happens a lot, by the way, with landscapers, because a lot of landscapers and gardeners don't have the insurance. They get sued and they have to pay this money out of their pocket. Sometimes it's, $20,000 or $30,000 that they lose the lawsuit with. And it's something that could put a lot of people out of business. You don't have 20 or 30,000 sitting in the bank. And this is why the general liability insurance is so important, to protect not only the pool service company, but the homeowner from any kind of liability, because accidents happen. Accidents are definitely preventable. If you ever have talked to any firemen in their training, the fire department always emphasizes that accidents are preventable, and they spend a lot of time talking about ways to prevent accidents from happening, because really an accident can be prevented if you're careful. In a pool service, there are a few things that are the main liability, and I'll go over them here in a minute. And I just want to address the fact that liability insurance is really affordable, and I've partnered with UPA, United Pool Association, to have insurance available at a really low rate of $64 a month. And if you're a member of my coaching group, you'll be getting a rate of $59. And the Pool Guy Podcast Show has teamed up with UPA to bring you affordable, reliable liability insurance starting at just $64 a month. Get up to $2 million in coverage, and the members of my coaching group get an even lower rate. Protect your business and your peace of mind. Sign up with UPA today by clicking the link in the podcast description. A month. Just as that little advertisement mentioned, those are the rates that they're offering at this point. And of course, the rates may change next year, but this is the current rate for this year, 2025. And it's something you need even if you're incorporated. And I do recommend that you incorporate as a business just to give yourself the layer of protection. It's also a good way of separating your personal and business expenses. Plus, corporations aren't audited as often as individual tax filers. Corporations also give you a little more leeway with deductions and things of that nature. Although there is a cost of $800 a year for filing, it's something that's definitely worth it. And usually your CPA can incorporate you for about $2,000 or $2,500. They can do all the paperwork for you. That way it's done legally and correctly. You have to register it. Again, this is a problem if you don't do it correctly and something happens and you don't have the filing done correctly, then the corporation is not actually something that's incorporating won't be something that will protect you in that event. This is something that has happened recently to one of the members of my group, where an employee had spilled quite a lot of acid. He sent me the picture of it, and it was a pretty large amount of acid on the deck that was spilled. From the photo, it looked like the deck was stamped concrete. And this is a pretty delicate process when they put the concrete in, the decking in, and they stamp it. It's basically cement that is laid when they're building the pool, and then they add a color powder to it, and then they have a stamp, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a pattern. And if you've ever seen the hardscapers, they have like a bunch of different patterns that they use. They take that stamp and they stand on it and they pound it with metal rods, and then they stamp the concrete, and then the colored powder goes into the concrete. And as it cures, it turns it to a color, which is a pretty uniform color. It could be a tan or it could be a brown. So this spill of acid on this stamped concrete section is a big problem, because you can't really do the normal acid washing. Typically, when you spill acid on a piece of normal cement, you can generally use a power washer to fade it, and then you can use a light acid wash on that section. So concrete or cement is usually split into sections to prevent cracking. If you have a large piece of cement with no splits or cuts in it, chances are as it settles it's going to crack. And so that's why a lot of the decking at the pools are split. So you can usually take that section where the acid was spilled, give it a light acid wash with water and acid until it all blends together. And when that one cures, it'll look similar to the other pieces of cement, maybe not exactly like it. In some cases, what you have to do, and I've done this before, is power wash the entire pool deck. I know it's a pain, but it's much more expensive to redo the stamped concrete or cut out a section. The whole point of this is that more than likely, since that stained the stamped concrete, the builder's going to have to go out there and remove maybe that section and re-put the cement in and stamp it. And I would say that's going to cost thousands of dollars. Now you do have, of course, a deductible, but let's just say, for example, that as you're walking back to the pool, and let's just say the pool is like a 30,000 gallon pool, your acid was leaking all the way from the walkway back around the pool area to the deck, and it's all beautifully stamped concrete. Well, in that case, that looks like a pretty expensive job to fix, especially if the homeowner insists on replacing all of that and redoing all of that. And that's why liability insurance is there to protect you from that, from a larger claim that you'd have to pay out of your pocket. One claim that happens a lot is if the pool service leaves the water running. I really think it's important to have a service agreement. And by the way, if you email me at david@swimmingpoollearning.com, david@swimmingpoollearning.com, I can send you this one-page service agreement where in there it specifies and it says that the homeowner is responsible for filling the pool and you will not fill the pool. It's better to turn the system off when you get to a pool when it's low on water than to fill the pool and then accidentally leave it on. Now, there are some tricks of the trade. You can leave your car keys there. I have a little clip. I can clip it onto the fill line, and that way I can turn off the water. Because if I go to my truck and I go to try to start it, I don't have my keys. I realize that I left them on the water. And by the way, if you've done this before, you probably have gone out to your truck without your keys and realized that you left the water on. So you can see how dangerous this is, even if you have kind of this quote-unquote bulletproof safety measure, which is not bulletproof, by the way, because I've actually done this before when I'm filling vacant homes and I had to go to my truck to get something and then I don't put the keys back on the fill line. Therein lies the problem. So you want to make sure that you just don't fill the pools without exception, and you make sure the homeowner knows this with a service agreement saying that you are not going to fill the pool. And the best thing you can do when the pool is really low on water is just turn off the system and let the customer know that you left the pool off that day to fill the pool when they get home or when they can. And I always like to send them a photo of how low the pool is, and then I'll draw a little red line showing them this is where the water should be each week. The visual aid really helps the customer and it keeps them on track to keep the pool filled. I also like to let them know that if you don't fill the pool, you could damage the equipment. It's going to be much more expensive than filling the pool with water, replacing a pump that burns out, or if there's a water leak, having you repair it. So a key thing is not to fill the pool so you're not liable for it. What the insurance also protects you from is false claims. Just like if you're in an auto accident, if you've ever been in an accident, what will happen is that their insurance will contact you for a statement. Let's just say they have State Farm insurance, the person that was involved in the accident with you, and you have Allstate insurance. Well, the State Farm agent is going to call you and ask you for a statement, what happened, and then Allstate, your insurance will call you, ask you for a statement. Allstate will call the other party, ask them for a statement. The same thing with liability insurance. They're not going to just pay out money to whatever claim the homeowner makes. So if someone's saying that you left the water on and it flooded their house or whatever, there has to be some proof of this happening, and there has to be some evidence that you are the one who did this, and therefore that's why this liability company comes in handy, because they are not going to just pay out a claim. But ultimately, if it was your fault and you did cause some damage to the property and it's something that costs $20,000 or $30,000, you don't have to pay that out. The liability insurance company will ultimately pay that out. Again, it's there to protect you as well, because if you don't have general liability insurance, you're the one who's contacted by the homeowner's attorney. You have to do all the work, all the footwork. It's going to be a lot of extra work for you. And it may just be something where you're like, okay, I'm just going to settle this for, $10,000 and call it a day. When in fact, you may not have to have paid anything. The liability company may find that you weren't even at fault. And it's something that having the insurance will protect you from and give you peace of mind. So there's all different layers or reasons to have the general liability policy. It's not just protection from a mistake you may make. It's also a protection or protecting you from any kind of false claims out there that may come past you or through an employee or something that someone may have said you did. So there are multiple layers to having general liability insurance. And again, it's really affordable through UPA. So there's really no reason why you don't have it or shouldn't have the insurance. And then the last thing that I think is something I should emphasize for liability purposes is closing gates. Now, this is something that sometimes it's not you, it's the gardener or landscaper or even the homeowner after the fact left the gate open. But it is really imperative that you double check to make sure after you service the pool, the gate is locked so that you have no liability, especially if there's kids and you have one of those mesh fences around the pool or one of the wrought iron fences that you have it locked and latched. And you can take a picture if you want to document it each time. That may be unnecessary. What I do is I usually lock the gate and I shake it, and people have cameras everywhere anyway, so you'll more than likely be caught on camera doing this. So just lock the gate, then grab it and shake it, make sure it's locked, and always make sure the gate is securely shut and locked each time. I do this every time I go to my truck to get something as well. I'll make sure I close the gate and then I'll reopen it. It's a pain, but it's something that you need to do. And you just want to make sure that this is one layer, one liability issue that you don't want to deal with if someone, were to go into the pool, a child, and get injured or, has a fatal drowning incident. You don't want to be the one holding the bag at this point. So always make sure that you don't get careless around gates. This is the number one thing that I always make sure of, because especially if there's dogs or pets back there, make sure the gates are locked. Now, there was an incident. It wasn't anything for liability, but they did have 2 pet rabbits in an area by the equipment area. There was like a separate gated area to get to the equipment side yard, and there was the main yard, and they had a Labrador, or a golden retriever, I should say, and they had 2 pet rabbits that were in that other section. And I was new. I was just starting out in the business. This was back in like 1989, and I went back to the equipment, and then I went to my truck to get something, left that side gate open. Now, granted, the customer never told me they had rabbits on that side. It was a new account for me, and for some reason, at that moment when I went to my truck to get something, the rabbits that were in there got into the main yard. Again, I didn't see any of this happening. It was something that I was oblivious to. Then I went back. Of course, I closed the gate. So now the rabbits are actually stuck in the main yard with the dog. And of course, play this story forward. The dog killed the rabbits, and, it was actually my fault. It wasn't really a liability thing, but it was something that I learned that if I don't close gates, even like side gates or in between gates, something bad can happen. So I learned that hard lesson. And of course, the family wasn't happy with me for a very long time. The kids especially did not like the pool guy. And it's one of those things where closing gates, middle gates, side gates, whatever, is something that should just be a natural habit and built into you so that you avoid liability and avoid problems in your pool service business. So you have to think and always be thinking of what would be a liability. Parking in someone's driveway is a liability. Spilling acid on their deck is a liability. Turning on the water when you shouldn't be filling the pool is a major liability. Your employees should know not to fill the pool. If the pool is low, just turn off the system for the day and let the customer fill the pool up. And these are all things that are avoidable, but sometimes you do make mistakes out there. It's hot. I had a member of my group who was about 105 degrees in Hemet, California. He was putting in some equipment and he had forgot to turn the breaker off, went to the store to get something. The pump came on and, of course, the pipe was just open basically between the filter and the pool. And about an hour went by and the whole backyard area was flooded. Luckily, it was away from the house, but if that equipment was on the side of the house and that kind of water flow happened for an hour, it would have seeped through the stucco into the house, done a lot of damage to the property, and he was really upset with himself because he's not a rookie, but he did make a rookie mistake, and those things can happen. So having the insurance as that added protection is really important for you, as well as for the service accounts and the homeowners that hire you, knowing that you're insured. Of course, for commercial accounts, you need to have that insurance, but it gives everyone a peace of mind that, okay, if anything does happen, my pool guy has the insurance, I'm okay with it, and if anything happens on your route, you can sleep easy knowing that you have that coverage. And if you're looking for other podcasts that I have recorded, you can find those on my website, swimmingpoollearning.com. Click on the podcast banner There'll be a drop-down menu of 1,700 podcasts there for you. And if you're interested in the coaching program that I offer, you can learn more at poolguycoaching.com. Thanks for listening to this podcast. Have a rest of your week, and God bless. This episode is brought to you by HASA, providing products that deliver clean, healthy water for every aspect of everyday life. The bottom feeder battery-powered vacuum system, portable, powerful, and only weighs 12 pounds. And Skimmer. Get Skimmer, America's #1 pool service software. Podcast listeners can try Skimmer for free at getskimmer.com/poolguy.